Good afternoon and welcome to this Yellowstone Advisory webinar with Sulnox Group PLC. I'm delighted to have with us here Ben Richardson, the CEO, and I'm now going to hand over to him to start today's presentation.
Yeah, very excited to be presenting Sulnox to you today. Thank you to the loyal shareholders who are here to get an update. And hopefully I can express the excitement that we are seeing with Sulnox and entice some of you others to become new investors. So if we look at the backdrop of the world today, it's in desperate need of an energy transition solution. We know that peak oil is not coming until at least 2040, and the world needs a solution today to reduce its fossil. It's able to influence all of today's liquid hydrocarbons, so all of the petrols or gasolines, diesels, and marine and even aviation fuels that we currently use. We're able to reduce consumption of those and reduce associated both greenhouse gas and particulate matter emissions by improving combustion. And so if you look at the right-hand side here, you can see what we're able to do is make an enormous impact on the global usage of oil and the associated refined fuels and a significant reduction in the CO2, whilst also helping with air quality by reducing those black particulate matters that you see coming out of exhausts or indeed ships' funnels. In terms of who we are as a company, we are a listed company. We're listed on the Aquis Stock Exchange in the UK. Our shares are also traded in America on the OTC market. And as I mentioned, we are inventors, and we're inventors of green technology. So scientific based, factual, well-researched fuel emulsification technology, which enables that fossil fuels to burn that much better. We have now a lot of independent testing done with the likes of Lloyd's Register, who are the go-to certification body for the marine sector, and I'll explain how important that is. And the likes of VPS, who test fuels for the marine world all over the planet to ensure that they comply with the necessary regulations. And what I'm really pleased to say is not only are we tested scientifically, but we're also unique in what we do. And as a result, we now have patents across the globe, and these patents are ever increasing, and we are expanding those footprints through time with new products. The world, as I mentioned, is also becoming far more regulated. So it's not only the desire for companies to reduce their fossil fuel consumption and emissions, but it's also the stick of the regulator that becomes stricter and stricter. And Sulnox, as a product that works immediately to reduce fossil fuels and emissions, makes us an immediate go-to solution, which is gathering significant momentum. Today, the product is already sold in over 40 countries, and the number is increasing. I mentioned the patents already. You see here that we have the main patents in America and Europe, but also some very significant patents have been earned in the likes of China and Saudi Arabia. So a lot of scrutiny will have been put on our patents, and pleased to say that the fact that these patents have been granted means that there's only not only can we not be replicated with our chemistry in the short term, but there's a significant future for our chemistry with the likes of biofuels and other future fuels that come in to replace today's fossil fuels. The product is also sold to the marine hubs, and we have significant product in all of the marine hubs like Houston, Gibraltar, Rotterdam, Jebel Ali in near Dubai, Singapore, and in Australia. So we now have product on the ground to immediately service the shipping world, and also to draw your attention to the fact that the products are made by a company called Nouryon. Nouryon was formerly known as Akzo Nobel, a specialty chemicals company, and now owned by private equity in the form of Carlyle Group. So this company is making the product for us today in Rotterdam and in Singapore. But critically, they're able to make the product at scale anywhere on the planet, and have been the backbone to help us to grow, and will continue to do so. Sulnox is a product, or our products are applicable to every internal combustion engine on the planet. So the scale of the market and who we can sell to is absolutely enormous. Today, we are largely focused on the marine sector. This is because of the fact that the marine sector consumes a vast amount of fossil fuels in the form of heavy sulfur fuel oil or very low sulfur fuel oil, or indeed marine gas oil or diesel. A single ship using Sulnox, a container ship perhaps the size of the Empire State Building, to give you an idea of scale, can save around $1 million per annum with that 5% fuel saving that Sulnox offers. So today, Sulnox is already speaking with about 55 shipping fleets with a combined number of vessels of 4,500. So you can quickly do the maths and work out that the market there is enormous. In fact, if we can get 5% of the global shipping market, we'll be looking at revenues of around 200 million. So a significant upside to today's share price just on the marine sector alone. The second really huge market for us is also fuel stations. So you and I filling up at the petrol station. If I can give you an idea that 30 petrol stations can generate around $1 million in revenue, and you see that here we have 550,000 on the planet. We're already in the petrol stations in West Africa, in Ghana, looking to expand in Nigeria, and also into Latin America, but a significant market. Then there's the generator market, where if you take just Lagos alone, there's more units in Lagos than in the whole of Western Europe, a total of 83 million units worldwide, because the world is not able to fully rely on its power grid, particularly in emerging nations and also in expanding nations like Saudi Arabia, where their construction and development programs mean that huge numbers of generators are being used every day, and it's expanding. I won't go through all of these, but generators also used ubiquitously to power in mining and in construction sites. They're also very concerned with trying to find solutions. If you're an inner city construction, you're very much penalized for emissions, and Sulnox able to reduce both greenhouse gas emissions around 30%, and the black smoke that comes as much as 90%, means that Sulnox provides a tangible ESG or sustainability solution to go with the health benefits as well. If we look at others, logistics and freight, Sulnox already been selling to the trucking world and indeed to the locomotive or rail sectors for some time now, and this is a footprint that we're growing. And excitingly, and I'll get onto this later, in the government and defense sectors, a couple of our new advisory board members are able to link us in there. And we hope also to be able to influence many of the power stations across the world. So to sum it up, every combustion engine on the planet, or if you like, 70% or more than 70% of every barrel of oil is a target market for Sulnox, which can generate significant income. I'm going to talk now about our principal product. It's called Sulnox Eco, and it's a product that works as a simple pour-in product. So if you imagine before you fill up at the gas station or as you are bunkering a ship, you put the product in, then you're adding the fuel. The product mixes completely and effectively without the need of any external devices and without the need to spend any capital or in the form of capex to use the product. The product's been shown now in, as I said, more than 40 countries to work extremely effectively with an average fuel saving in the marine sector of around 5%, and then on land applications in the developed world, 8 to 10%. And in the developing world, particularly in Africa, where the fuel is poor and the vehicles are old, we see as much as a 15% fuel saving. So you can imagine that even with a 5% fuel saving, the return on investment to a shipping customer is north of 350%. For a land-based user, we're looking at around 800, as high as 1,000%. So for a user to take the product, which is a simple to use product, it's really something that they're now starting to cotton onto, that they can save a meaningful amount of cost, but also in a very short space of time make a fantastic return on their investment. What is now coming to the fore with the product, however, is the need to reduce CO2 and other greenhouse gases. The use of the product has been shown in generator tests, and I'll show you a case study in a minute or two around how we can reduce CO2 up to 30% and nitrous oxides around 14 to 20%. But the real story is around the black smoke that you see coming from an exhaust as a result of incomplete combustion, where we are reducing those particulates more than 90%. The benefit of the product is not just to improve combustion, it's also to clean and lubricate as well. Obviously, particularly if you've got an old engine and it's not working as effectively as it once did, the cleaning and lubrication properties of Sulnox Eco mean that you get a mechanical benefit as well. I will now talk quickly about the science. I find that people are super interested in how Sulnox is working and what makes us unique. The point of why you get poor fuel economy and why you sometimes get that black smoke coming out of your exhaust in your car or in a ship's funnel in a port is because you've got large fuel particles which are burning from the outside in. This means that they burn incompletely. But what we know with fuel is because of its hydrophilic nature, it attracts water. We know that there is always water available in fuel. It's allowed to be there by regulation, as much as 0.5%, but also water is created through water vapor and condensation in your fuel tank. So there's always water there. And what Sulnox does is it takes advantage of that water to improve combustion. So very small amounts of water are emulsified into that large fuel particle. Then that large particle goes into the combustion chamber where the water will vaporize, and this will smash that big particle into lots of little particles. Now, when you've got smaller particles of fuel, this means there's more surface area for oxygen to interact with. And it means that those smaller particles burn more completely. And this is why we have a unique selling point here. No other additive type product has this unique potential to reduce fuel consumption so much using the available water. And what Sulnox has been shown to do, as I mentioned, is fuel savings of around 5% in a marine environment. To a container ship, that's as much as $1 million per annum per vessel. So it's a compelling story, and one where we have no equal. But we don't just improve combustion. As I mentioned, Solnox is a green tech. We have natural ingredients in Solnox's formulas which improve lubricity dramatically. We have tests as much as 30%, recent tests showing 21%. This study of 17% is from a long-term 10 sample study with VPS, that fuel testing company I mentioned. You can imagine if you're adding as much as 17 or as 30, as much as 30% lubricity, then all of the working parts in the engine are performing that much better. You can lose as much as 40% of energy in an engine to friction, and Solnox is helping dramatically by adding that lubricity. But combustion is a dirty business, and all through the fuel journey, there will be deposits being laid down through poor combustion and other inefficiencies. Now, Solnox is able to clean those injectors that spray the fuel so they work more effectively, or if you like, as they were when the car or the ship was first made. But also the piston crowns, which through time tend to get carbon buildups. Solnox is removing those deposits, cleaning the engine, again, making it work that much better, which gives more power and more torque. And it's these combined four mechanisms that make Solnox unique. You don't just have to take my word for it. If we look today at how effective we are now in the marine space, what we have is 7 shipping companies here, or companies associated with shipping, who have tried the products and have found that they do what they say, which is save around 5% in the marine sector, and they've now also become investors. McQuilling, MC on the left there, a large ship broker out of the United States, Seabourn, a ship broker out of Greece and Asia, Technava, another broker out of Greece. But then we have the actual large-scale shipping companies. You see our principal investor, Konstantin Logothetis, was a principal at Lomar Shipping, a large container line, and now has a small fleet. He has been instrumental in helping grow the company and now owns about 29% of the company. The latest shareholder is Idan Ofer with Eastern Pacific Shipping, a really key client. It's a company with 300 vessels and growing, and also extremely well respected in the industry. And I'll show you their testimonial in a short while. But there's others, a bulker company called Marfin out of Monaco. The CEO now sits on our board. Spring Marine, another tanker and bulker company out of Greece. And our second largest shareholder, Nistad, who has some small feeder container ships. So these companies have all tried the product, found it worked, and now using the product on their fleet. But there are many more along the bottom here, some examples. Synergy, a public company listed on the NASDAQ. CMS is a public company out of Azerbaijan. And we now are moving into the cruise ship sector as well. But perhaps most interestingly is the company Peninsula. Peninsula is a bunker provider company, so they supply bunkers to the shipping world. And there we've started with the ability to pre-mix Solnox into the fuel for the super yachts as they arrive in Gibraltar. One of the beauties of reducing fossil fuel consumption and associated greenhouse gases is that we are now starting to see the ability to potentially talk about carbon credits. We've engaged a consultancy firm now to look into the fact that Sulnox is reducing fossil fuel consumption and emissions so much as to whether or not the users might be able to benefit from reducing their carbon footprint. If we look at what Sulnox is able to do for carbon, when a liter of fuel is burnt or diesel is burnt, it will emit 2.6 kilograms of CO2. To treat that liter of diesel with Sulnox actually only requires a tiny input of 1.94 grams of CO2 from the Sulnox life cycle. But if we take an example of a generator where 14.5% fuel is saved, this would mean that we can reduce 377 grams of CO2 per litre. So the return on carbon for the use of Sulnox is every 1 gram of carbon that we put in, we can actually reduce carbon 194 grams in terms of CO2 output. So it's a project that we are looking into, but the fact that Sulnox is an instant reducer in carbon today means that this could become a very exciting and viable opportunity to drive sales forward and to indeed influence the world to adopt Sulnox. I mentioned that Sulnox is available for use in every internal combustion engine. I've also mentioned that Eastern Pacific is now an investor, having signed up to buy a minimum quantity over the next 18 months across 30 different vessels. I'm pleased to say that today we're already in around 40 vessels with EPS, and that today not only the trial data where they used Sulnox on 8 vessels for 8 months and showed 5% fuel savings, but also now that wider adoption also showing up to 5% fuel savings. The beauty of using EPS is they're also helping us with our research. Since we signed EPS, they're now using biofuel on several vessels, including biofuel 100, so 100% biofuel. And why this is important is because the shipping sector is moving to find those that don't use biofuels in certain areas on the planet. It's called Fuel EU, and the penalties are very harsh. But the shipping world is very scared of using biofuels. No two biofuels are the same, and they are even more hydrophilic than fuel. They attract water, and having a bio content means that the water separating out will allow the growth of microbes and other fungus, etc., to jeopardize the fuel, to make it unusable. So the shelf life of these biofuels is very much shorter, and there are fears around the stability of the biofuels. But with the use of Sulnox and our emulsion technology, we stop that water from separating out by emulsifying it into the fuel. And I'm pleased to say that not only have we shown fuel savings with the use of B30 and B100, but the engines are also demonstrating that cleanliness as well. So EPS is our marquee client for the world's largest ships. And I'm pleased to say also that they've now put us in their sustainability report, and the relationship is strong. It's not just the largest container ships, tankers, bulkers, and offshore vessels. Sulnox is now having success in the cruise ship sector. Whilst the driving force for the adoption in commercial shipping is fuel reduction, for the cruise ships, it's also highly contingent around reducing emissions. Those of you who've been on a cruise ship will note that there's often some fumes because the vacuum effect of the cruise ship means that those emissions from the funnel come down to you on board the vessels. And you will also note that the decks are often slippy, and that is because of that black carbon that's coming out of the funnel. On a long-term test with Crystal Cruises, we've been showing that 3.5% fuel saving, but also much less black smoke, and also the benefits from having cleaner pools and deck chairs, and the ability to tell their users, their customers, that they are not only that they are also acting sustainably when they're cruising with Crystal Cruises. We've also diversified away from shipping into the rail sector, and the rail market is huge. We estimate that around 50% of the globe will never be able to electrify due to the nature of bridges and getting up high wires across all terrains. You see here that Colas Rail, which is part of the Bouygues Group, has shown a 4.5% fuel saving. For them, this is a six-figure fuel saving on the fleet that is using the product, and also a significant ability to aid with their Scope 3 emissions reporting due to the reduction in the greenhouse gases. I've mentioned that generators are a large market for us, particularly in Africa and in the Far East and Middle East. This is really the defining study that we did with Sulnox and the emissions monitoring technology company called Socotec. Over a 5-week period, we used a large generator and showed through that time a reduction of 14.5% in forecourt diesel usage, which is obviously very significant. But also here the numbers I quote for the CO2 reductions and the particulate matter reductions. Because a generator has no external influences, this means that this study with this emissions monitoring group, Socotec, means that the usage or the effectiveness of Sulnox is indisputable. They also, may I point out that the size of the generator market across the globe, not only in mining and construction, but also in the power generation sector, where a lot of island nations still use generators to power their whole economy. So, in terms of the scale of the market and where we are, I'm very pleased to say that Sulnox's growth is unrelenting. We have a record quarter last quarter. I've already announced that we had a very good start to this quarter, and results will be coming out at the end of the month. Year over year, we've doubled our revenues and also more than doubled our product volumes, as now everything is paid for, and we expect that volumes will increase as the shipping sector acknowledges that Sulnox is the capex-free solution to immediately reduce their consumption and impact. You can see from the analyst write-ups that we have also exceeded others in the marketplace, and as a result, our share prices are up around 100% year over year. Today, this share price means the market cap is around £75 million. But as I've already indicated, just the marine sector could generate, with just 5% of the market, a 200 million revenue estimate. So the scale of volumes in the power generation in the fuel sector, in the mining sector is truly enormous. I've just to quickly recap, I've talked about shipping and our partnership with Eastern Pacific. What I didn't mention is that Eastern Pacific are now investors as a result of purchases of stock, but they're also incentivized to introduce those others that charter their vessels. So if you look at who charters the vessels from Eastern Pacific, it's the likes of Maersk, the likes of CMA, CGM, even companies like Rio Tinto and others. So their ability to demonstrate fuel savings and cleanliness of engines to those that already use fuel on board and charter out the Eastern Pacific vessels is enormous. And if we look at land, the African markets are now booming with Ghana now adopting Sulnox in petrol stations in the pumps, and Nigeria expanding with some great case studies emerging around how we've equally reduced fuel consumption of users where the fuel is particularly poor in terms of high water quality, high water quantity, or indeed paraffinic in its nature. So the markets that we're now growing into are growing daily, and I'm very pleased to announce that we now have just appointed a new advisory board, and what is really key about them is we now have the case studies, we have the science, we know the fuel savings across the multitude of industries I've talked to you about. But how do we grow the revenues? And the advantage of the advisory board is that they add a lot of missing pieces in our current sales footprint and geographies. Pleased to say that Constantine Logothetis, the largest shareholder, will lead the advisory board, whose purpose is not only obviously advice, but also introductions. If you look at these gentlemen here, we have Lincoln Bloomfield, who is a renowned advisor to the US government for many years, including former vice presidents, and in the security space. Link will bring us the United States, where obviously there's still the largest consumer of fossil fuels in the planet, but he will also be able to open up, hopefully, doors to the military. If we look at Nick, Nick has been based in the Middle East for his whole life. He was a senior advisor to British Petroleum in the Middle East, and is extremely well connected in another geography, the Middle East, where current Sulnox footprint is relatively small. If we look at Yanis, Yanis is ex-Procter & Gamble head of logistics or similar, and he's now an advisor to the Blackstone Group. So myself, an ex-banker, my CFO as an ex-insurance employee, do not have the logistics background that Yanis brings. And he's already adding tremendous value in terms of where should our stock points be? How should we make the most of our global presence as well? And he will be able to also introduce us to grow the footprint in the logistics trucking space. And then last but certainly by no means least, a current MP, the Honourable Tom Tugendhat. Tom, obviously very well connected in the UK, but was also instrumental in the COP27 that the UK hosted. And so these gentlemen will bring to us short-term revenues in the form of immediate low-hanging contacts that they know, but also will look to open up significant distribution opportunities in other geographies that we are not yet there. Also to talk about Sulnox Innovations, We announced this a couple of months ago with a small fundraise to get it going. Sulnox is a product which is unique at its core in its emulsification abilities, but we're also able to move into other sectors. I've mentioned biofuel. We haven't even mentioned aviation. This is a sector we can get into with the right partner, which we think we've now identified, and lots of other developments. And if you look at the right-hand side, Sulnox Reclaim, this is actually an ability to turn waste oil, which is often gathered off of tankers and other large vessels. The tanks are washed out with water, and you end up with what is called ship slops, with a high water content and an inability to strip that water out. Well, Sulnox has now received its first patent in Nigeria for this new product, and we expect to get the ability to have the patent across the world. And being able to reduce the water content of this waste oil to less than 2% means that that reclaimed oil is far more saleable at a higher price to those that use Sulnox. Anyway, that's really it from me. So I'm now very happy to answer the questions that I'm sure Alex is going to put to me.
Thank you very much, Ben. Good to hear about a company that's having a really positive impact on the environment and our lives. And as you said, we are now going to take questions. If you'd like to ask a question, please type it into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try and handle as many questions as we can. Ben, do you want to just stop sharing the screen, and then we can, and people can see us more clearly? Brilliant. Okay, so the first question here is about the organic definition of the product. So you define it as organic. Can you give a bit of clarity on that when you have chemicals in the product mix and the product is produced in a well-known chemical manufacturer?
Yeah, sure. So the products themselves are if we look at a typical fuel additive that's out there, and this is why I'll do this. We see that 99% of the time, if you look at the safety data sheets of these products, they are simply waste refinery products. So this is the likes of naphthalene and xylene. Many of you will know the product Red-X, which has been around for many years. That's pretty much kerosene if you see the chemical makeup of it. What Sulnox is very clever use of naturally occurring products and not refinery waste products in its nature. So you will have eaten some of the products contained within Sulnox. You may have washed with them, and you certainly will have used them potentially in cleaning products around your home. So, but what the beauty of the product is we've got clever chemistry. We've got emulsifiers which perform many different functions. They're not just straight emulsifiers. We have detergency and lubricity and all of the other combustion improvers that I talked about, all mixed up in one unique solution. And this makes us very different from those others in the market. Okay.
Thank you, Ben. Next question here is on AdBlue. Have you established, due to fuel reduction or usage efficiency reduction in AdBlue usage?
Yes. So Sulnox is a pre-combustion solution. So we're putting our product in with the fuel, improving combustion, meaning the engine is under less stress, means a reduction in nitrogen or nitrogen oxides, or NOx as it's called. AdBlue is a post-combustion solution which removes that remaining NOx. and it does it very effectively. It's a synthetic urea product. Now, if we improve combustion and reduce the production of NOx by 20%, what we're seeing is that there's a similar reduction in the AdBlue consumption. And if you're running a large fleet of trucks, that spend can be quite significant, which is why we say, in addition to the fuel savings, we also show maintenance cost reductions. And one of those maintenance cost reductions is the reduction of AdBlue consumption. But in addition, the Euro 6 trucks, they're very sensitive in their nature, and they have a function which puts them into limp mode if their NOx sensors are broken. And what we found, and what people have reported, is that those that use Sulnox mean that the trucks go into limp mode less often, which means that they don't have to get rescued, which is another ancillary benefit, as well as the cost saving from the AdBlue reduction.
Thank you. Next question here is there any research available on the company, analyst research, and where can I find that?
So we've put out Singer's in the past. Singer Capital Markets put out in the past some research to their investors, and we've now engaged a firm called Capital Access Group, who is currently writing some research for us. So bear with us. We are working with them on what the levels of forecasting are because of all that opportunity and the rising revenues that we're seeing.
Thank you. Looking at the financials, gross profit margins seem to be steadily rising. What level do you think this measure, gross profit margin, can get to?
So I think we've published around a 35 or 40% gross margin in our last AGM. What's really been amazing is that with the increased volumes that we've been able to sell over the last year or so, we've been able to negotiate our prices down. We've passed a lot of that on to the customers, which has meant that the sales cycle has shortened, and revenues have still been increasing despite the reduction in pricing. But to answer your question, I think we can easily see margins of around 50% being achieved, because we'll be able to renegotiate pricing. And to be honest, as the name becomes ubiquitous in the market as the only product that can really reduce fuel consumption as much as us, and also reduce emissions as much as us, we will have a captive audience, and be able to increase pricing through time, especially if we can tack on something like a carbon credit as an example.
Thank you. Next one here. What's the most important industry vertical for the product?
Yeah, well, you've probably heard me talk a lot about marine, and so therefore it's obviously the marine vertical. Their industry is crying out to reduce its costs, whilst being simultaneously beaten by the regulation that's being forced upon it. But if we look at the marine sector, Sulnox is not just involved in the large container ships, the tankers, the bulkers that I've talked about, and the cruise sectors. We're actually now getting a lot of interest from the fishing vessels and super yachts that I mentioned. So whilst marine might be the vertical, there are lots and lots of opportunities across that sector.
Got a good segue to the next question, which is, why is it taking so long for shipping companies to take on the product if it works so well?
Right. Yes, I wish I had the answer to that. But so over the last 4 years, it's not only Sulnox that has evolved to become the company it is today with great revenue potential. It's also the shipping sector. So I remember 4 years ago, when I asked a shipping company if they could measure their fuel consumption, they said, yes, we've got a weight on the end of a rope, and we go and do a measurement every day, and we say, well, that's around 25 tons a day that we're consuming. So the industry has been quite slow in adopting new technologies to measure fuel consumption, and I think that only with the advent of this regulation, which means that fuel consumption must be not only monitored but recorded and reported accurately to the regulator, that we're now seeing it becoming a lot easier to demonstrate fuel savings on board vessels. There's also the fact that to prove the under different sea conditions with different fuels through time, it's not an easy it's not an easy calculation. I mentioned that a generator sits there with no external forces. Obviously, with a vessel, you've got tide and weather and load on the engine, and it's only through our diligent data analysis with the customers that we're able to prove the effectiveness of the product. But what I'm very pleased to say is, with EPS and the likes of Spring Marine, who are adopting across their fleets, we're getting more and more data, so it's becoming a lot easier. And the sophistication of these shipping companies is making it very much easier. We've now got high frequency data monitoring on board many vessels, and we're showing the specific oil fuel consumption, which is taking into account weather and power that the engine's exerting to prove fuel consumption reduction. It's becoming a lot easier. So whilst they were slow to adopt, we're now seeing more and more shipping companies willing to firstly trial, but then we're also now seeing a lot of repeat business in that sector, and it's becoming easier.
Moving now on to geographic exposure, where
Yeah.
are the top five markets for your products?
Well, it's a global marketplace. So obviously, marine is the largest sector, and that's a global industry. If we have to be specific, it's Singapore, which is obviously the provider of the lion's share of the world's bunkers, and why we're now also making the product, or Nurian is making the product in Singapore for us. But we're already producing in Holland, and we're now looking to also produce out of the USA. So in terms of our second largest sector, the fuel stations, well, that's being driven out of West Africa, particularly Ghana at this time, and also Nigeria. But there's significant interest to replace the existing additives, which are sometimes very toxic and ineffective, as I mentioned, in nature, through the whole of Central and South America, and indeed up into Canada, where we see a push to premix Sulnox into the fuel provided by certain fuel companies. In terms of if rail, again, the UK is our base. We've got that fantastic case study with Colas Rail, part of the Bouygues Group. But we have rail companies now in South America, Peru, in Asia, places like Cambodia and Africa, including Nigeria, which is and South Africa, where there's a real push into using Sulnox in the rail space. Logistics is probably the fourth industry, and that's obviously again a worldwide opportunity. And pleased to say in North America and Canada particularly, that logistics footprint is growing fast to go with what we've already established in the UK and in West Africa. And then finally, I think mining is probably our largest sector that we want to get into. And again, Canada, Africa, and hope of expanding the footprint in Australia now as well. But I know that's five, but we probably would want to tack on defense as the last option or opportunity there, because many armies, I mean, we look at our own, you have an aging fleet of armed vehicles and tanks and indeed vessels, and they are often stored or mothballed with the hope that we never need them. And Sonox's ability to prolong the life of fuel and stop the issues around diesel bug and other things means that we're able to hopefully get into that defense sector as well, which is obviously a worldwide thing.
Great, thanks, Ben. We've got quite a few questions to try and get few through in the time available, so I'm going to try and rattle through some of those.
Okay, I'll keep my answers
Next,
shorter then.
thank you very much. Yeah,
Sorry.
you got the point there. Next question is, where can you buy it in the UK?
So you can buy it on Amazon or on our website, no problem.
And if Sulnox can be distributed at the pump in Africa, what is the barrier to doing this in the UK and the rest of the world?
Um, so if you look at Ghana, they've got what's called the oil marketing companies, which we call petrol station chains. There's 220 of them, roughly, and they're all competing to get a slice of the cake. And anything like Solnox has been demonstrated to vastly increase their revenues. Fuel stations using Solnox have reported quadrupling their revenues because of customer demand. If we look at the UK, it's very much an oligopoly. We've got Shell, we've got BP, we've got the supermarkets, and one or two smaller companies like Jet and others. So I think that the barrier is the comfort that there's so few of them, and if it's not a physical oligopoly, it is in its nature. But I'm hopeful that once we prove the effectiveness in Ghana, that we will attract some bigger partners even in the UK as well.
Thank you. We've got two questions here on the supervisory board, and it's about their impact on sales. I'm going to sort of ask them together. So what tangible extra full price sales do you expect to come in the short and medium term from the creation of the new supervisory board? And in what areas or geographies, industries do you expect the new supervisory board to have the most impact?
Okay, so we'll keep it short because I talked about this a little bit already. So these are very influential people, and I'm really thrilled that they, like our investors, decided that Sonox is a fantastic opportunity for them and to make an impact on the planet. So that they will immediately open doors to their immediate contacts, and we will pitch those significant companies immediately. But as I mentioned, they are bringing new geographies, the Middle East, the United States, to give two examples with Link and Nick. So that's going to make a big impact on future sales as well. But also bringing the expertise. Yanis brings logistics, which is something which is a huge market, which we haven't really concentrated on because we've been focused on the marine sector.
Okay, another question on sales here. So the advantages of Solnox are so significant that it's surprising sales volumes are not much greater already. In particular, I'm surprised that sales in Norway are relatively insignificant given their huge offshore fleet, the early large distributor and shareholder based in Norway, and their very tight regulations about emissions.
Yeah.
Why is this not a larger percentage of current sales?
It's a very good question, and when I speak to our Norwegian shareholders, they're super supportive, and they're now growing a team themselves to grow our revenues in that country. What I can tell you is that when I talk to the Norwegian shipping companies, and we've got several now that we are progressing along the sales journey with. they are very, very skeptical of the products, and this is because a lot of them got burned in the past with the charlatan products that I mentioned, claiming fuel savings, claiming the ability to clean the engines, and some of them actually had engine damage. So I think that's a market that has got a long memory, and it's taking us a while to get into it, but we are making progress there. The as I said earlier, the fact is that there are a lot of companies purporting to do what Solnox does, but they don't have patents. They don't. They take the fuel out of specification and can damage the engine. Solnox has been scientifically proven to not only reduce the consumption but also aid in the engine performance. And certainly not damage it. So I think it's a combination of history, which is particularly in Norway. I think in general, sales have suffered from those that have come before. But I'm pleased to say that now I really do see that we're gaining tremendous traction, and the brand, we're actually now receiving incoming inquiries from all over the world. So I think I don't think Sonos is a company that's going to have regular incremental growth in its revenues. I see step changes. I see massive adoptions, potentially even at country level, as a result of the effectiveness at reducing fuel imports, or indeed reducing emissions, and improving air quality.
Thank you for that, Ben. I think we've got time for one last question, and I do apologise if we haven't been able to cover all the questions on the webinar today, but we have managed to get through a large selection. So the last question here is, do you see the next opportunity to move upwards to AIM in the near future, and what advantages or even disadvantages are there from doing so?
A question that we get asked a lot. My focus is really on generating revenue. I think phase one is to get the company to profit, and then I think investors will find us. And we've already grown the investor base more than threefold in the last couple of years as the name's getting out. We've now hired the a head of marketing and communication, and we really are doing a great job at getting the name out there. But I think first thing we must do is generate revenue to get to profit, and then we can start to think about if we're on the right exchange, or whether or not we need to move to another. I think that's all I have to say. And look, we've got a big global market. Is it the UK we need to stay into? Does our contact in the Middle East, where they're going to be drilling and selling, using fossil fuels for the foreseeable future, is that potentially an option? Or is the States, if we grow revenues as I hope, should we move to there? My honest answer is we will continue to keep doing the due diligence and keeping our minds open for different exchanges. But we must make revenue first, and then I believe it won't matter what exchange we're on.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Well, that brings us to the end of today's webinar. Thank you very much to everyone for attending. And as you exit today, you'll be presented with a short survey. It would be really appreciated if you could just spend a few moments completing that survey, so we can provide some feedback to management. So, as I said, thank you, Ben, for presenting. Thank you for everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing you all soon.